going to be discussing, today we're going to be discussing a briefing of a national PVC plastic pipe report that will discuss the risk to our drinking water and our environment. We have 3 speakers that will be presenting for us today, and we're going to ask that you hold all questions till the very end. At that time, we will enable our chat. I am your moderator. I am Angela Marie Hutchinson. I serve as the Engagement Director for Environmental Health Sciences. I oversee our journalism as well as our public outreach and our mainstream media activities. At this time, it is with great pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker. Many of you know she is a force. Judith Ink is the founder and president of Beyond Plastics and is a professor at Bennington College in Vermont. Prior to these roles, she was appointed by President Obama to serve as EPA Regional Administrator for EPA Region 2. She previously served as Deputy Secretary for the Environment in the New York State Governor's Office. Judith will walk you through the report at this time. Judith, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Angela Marie, and welcome everyone. I'm really delighted to be here today with Angela Marie Hutchinson, the amazing scientist, Dr. Shauna Swan, and Mike Shade with Toxic Free Future, who released his own report last week on PVC plastic, which is important. But here we are today, releasing this fabulous report, The Perils of PVC Plastic Pipe. You should have this. It's also on the Beyond Plastics website and was just dropped in the chat. This is co-published by my organization, Beyond Plastics, also Environmental Health Sciences, and our friends at Plastic Pollution Coalition. Why did we write this report? Well, I applaud President Biden and congressional commitment to provide $15 billion to replace lead service lines over 5 years. This is new money from the Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Lead service lines are old, big pipes that deliver drinking water from a water main at the curb of your street to your home or your school or your business. A lead service line is not the pipes inside your home. It's the major pipe bringing the water into your building. Lead service lines are mostly found in older cities and also buildings constructed before 1986. These lead pipes are the most significant source of lead in drinking water. And this is a real concern because young children, infants, and fetuses are particularly vulnerable to lead, which can damage their nervous system and their ability to learn. I view this 15 billion with a B in new federal dollars really just as a down payment. The American Water Works Association says that 60 billion is needed to replace lead service lines around the country. And just last week, the Environmental Protection Agency, my old agency, EPA, they told us that 9.2 million lead service lines across the country will need to be replaced. The state with the most lead service lines is Florida, with 1.16 million lead service lines, followed by Illinois, with over 1 million lead service lines, followed by Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, New York, and then Tennessee. The White House estimates that this is a problem at as up to 10 million homes. And what also caught my attention is this is a problem at 400,000 schools and daycare centers nationwide. So I think we should prioritize removing lead service lines at schools and daycare centers. So EPA is sending this new billions, 15 billion in tax dollars to states who will then hand it out to local governments. And we need to make sure that when the lead pipes used for drinking water are removed, that they are not replaced with PVC plastic pipes, which is made from vinyl chloride, or from using CPVC pipes, which is chlorinated polyvinyl chloride. Today, Beyond Plastics is recommending that polyvinyl chloride PVC pipes and CPVC pipes be avoided for the delivery of drinking water. This decision will most likely be made by local governments, and the public should get involved before these final decisions are made. Polyvinyl chloride, which I'll just now refer to as PVC plastic, polyvinyl chloride is used to make PVC plastic. In fact, 99% of vinyl chloride worldwide is used just to make PVC plastic. Exposure to vinyl chloride is linked to increased risk of liver, brain, and lung cancers, as well as lymphoma and leukemia, according to the National Institute of Health. The EPA has classified vinyl chloride as a human carcinogen, and the International Agency for Research on Cancer first declared vinyl chloride to be a carcinogen in 1974. That's 49 years ago. What also happened in 1974 is federal agencies banned the use of vinyl chloride in various consumer products like hairspray, remember that, cosmetics, but not in pipes that deliver drinking water to our homes every single day. Vinyl chloride has since been linked to other health problems, which Dr. Shauna Swan will speak to that momentarily. I also want to point out that vinyl chloride was one of the chemicals that was burned from the 5 train cars in East Palestine. Remember that toxic train derailment in Ohio on February 3rd? A few days later, there was a decision to open burn 5 train cars of vinyl chloride, which in my judgment made the situation in East Palestine worse than it was previously. Beyond Plastics has done a detailed video of on-the-ground reporting in East Palestine, and I urge you to go to our website to check out that video, beyondplastics.org. PVC is the worst of the worst plastic. The US Plastics Pact said this. Who is the US Plastic Pact? They are a large group of nonprofit organizations and large companies like Nestle, Clorox, Walmart, and Coke. They all agreed to stop using PVC for packaging by 2025. And we applaud them for that. But I need to point out that people come in much more contact with drinking water than consumer packaging. We know that PVC and CPVC pipes are constructed with dozens of additive chemicals, some of which are known endocrine disruptors, such as organotins and potentially phthalates. According to the EPA, drinking water may contain vinyl chloride released from contact with polyvinyl chloride pipes. Researchers have also confirmed this. And that is what we are here to talk about today. When people say that plastics is cheap, they are dead wrong. The price is paid widely and for decades through healthcare costs and tax dollars. Now, in the months and years ahead, this new federal money will be flowing to state and local governments. And unfortunately, the EPA is not providing any guidance on what is a safe substitute for lead service line pipes. They could, but EPA has chosen not to. Beyond Plastics is recommending that local governments avoid using PVC and CPVC plastic as a replacement for lead pipes. Suitable alternatives include unlined copper pipes, preferably made from recycled copper, or stainless steel pipes. Local governments should look at alternatives to PVC pipes. This was recently done in Newark, New Jersey, where the city of Newark replaced all 23,000 lead service lines within 3 years, and they replaced the lead pipes with copper pipes. There's no guidance from EPA, and we are not aware of any significant guidance from state governments. I use as an example, Troy, New York, just north of Albany, is replacing lead service lines with copper pipes, but just 3 hours west in upstate New York, Rochester, New York is going to use PVC plastic. We recommend avoiding PVC plastic and CPVC because independent researchers have documented roughly 30 to 60 different toxic chemicals released by PVC and CPVC pipes and their fittings. While individual chemicals have generally been found at very low levels, we don't know enough about the health significance of exposure to complex chemical mixtures. And many of the chemicals that have been found target the same organ systems. Endocrine disrupting chemicals, organotins, and phthalates in particular have been documented leaching from PVC and CPVC pipes, and these chemicals are biologically active at extremely low levels in parts per trillion. Once these drinking water pipes are installed, people will be getting their water from these pipes for many decades. Yet no one can say how well plastic pipes will hold up over the many decades that they are in service. Researchers out just this month showed that disinfectants can age plastic pipes and release microplastics and chemicals into drinking water. Further, when PVC pipes burn during house fires or wildfires, they release even more hazardous chemicals into drinking water. Benzene in particular has been found at levels well above what the EPA considers safe in water systems after wildfires. And I used to think of wildfires as terrible fires that happened in remote forested areas in the woods in the West, but that is changing because of climate change. On average, 2.5 million homes are within 2 miles of a wildfire every year in the US. And importantly, when PVC burns, it poses a unique risk to firefighters. There are so many questions about the safety of PVC pipes and now we know that there are better alternatives. EPA needs to conduct thorough research on the nature of all of the liberated chemicals from plastic pipes, the stability of the pipes under assault from microbes or chlorination, and the importance of water variables on these processes. So what are some logical questions the public may have? One is, don't federal drinking water standards protect us from this potential problem? Not exactly. Drinking water standards apply at the point that your water enters the distribution system. So the testing is done at the reservoir or at the public water supply distribution system, if it's pulling up groundwater, for instance. The EPA testing and the state testing is not done at the tap in your home. Second question, doesn't the EPA certify that these pipes are safe? Well, I would direct you to pages 14 to 17 in the report. The answer is no. That role is played by a private organization called NSF International. They certify pipes And the certification is paid for by the companies that make the very pipes. And state governments also rely on this private group to set the exposure standards. The organization's review committee has pipe industry representatives on their committees, and they decide which pipes are certified, with the companies, again, paying for the certification. The process is not transparent. Test results from NSF International are not made available to the public. We would not expect drug companies to pay a private organization to test and approve their vaccines and their drug products for safety. That's the role of the FDA, not a private organization that's not accountable to the public. We would not expect coal companies to establish standards for coal plants. Why is it okay for companies that make pipes to pay for their product certification and have a private organization set the standards for pipes that delivers our drinking water? Drinking water quality is pretty important, and this should be the role of government. It's also really important to understand that PVC manufacturing, transportation by rail can be a risk for nearby communities. PVC is mostly made in Louisiana, Texas, and Kentucky, in low-income communities and communities of color, where there is a concentration of petrochemical facilities, making this a very significant environmental justice issue. So why are some local governments choosing to use PVC plastic pipes to replace lead service lines? Some think it's cheaper, but this is misleading. What we have learned is that major costs on these projects to replace lead service line, it goes into labor and ripping up the sidewalks and the road, not necessarily the cost of the pipes. Smart cities are calibrating the lead service line replacement projects, for instance, when they're doing street paving. The type of the pipe that is used is a smaller part of the full project. There are fewer, more important roles for local government than providing safe and clean drinking water. Every mayor, every city council member, every local water department should read this report and learn more about this issue. Equally important, they need to consult with local residents, lay out the pros and the cons of each of the piping material. This is a 53-page report with 106 footnotes. It's actually easy to read, and we want local governments and state governments to err on the side of caution. Finally, I want to thank the Natural Resources Defense Council, NRDC, and Bloomberg Philanthropies Beyond Petrochemicals campaign for this support of our work. Thank you. I'll now turn it back to Angela Marie.
Thank you, Judith. Our next speaker is Dr. Swan. Dr. Shauna Swan is one of the world's leading environmental and reproductive epidemiologists and a professor of environmental medicine and public health at Mount Sinai in New York City. She is the author of the recent book, Countdown: How Our Modern World is Threatening Sperm Counts, Altering Male and Female Reproductive Development, and Imperiling the Future of the Human Race. Dr. Swan is also a senior scientist at Environmental Health Sciences. Today, she will speak about the human health impacts of PVC plastic. Dr. Swan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Angela Marie. And I'm glad for this opportunity to talk about this important problem that we're all facing. And I wanted to thank Judith for an incredible introduction, and you're a hard act to follow, Judith. I want to tell you that PVC is commonly found in a range of everyday products, not just water pipes. This PVC exposes us to many chemicals of high concern, including vinyl chloride, and plasticizers and organotins. All are required in the manufacture of plastic products. I'm going to briefly summarize what we know about their health effects. First of all, I want to note that, and I believe Judith did this, that most, actually 90% of all plasticizers produced, which is in billions of tons per year, are used to manufacture PVC. And research has directly linked many plasticizers with serious health concerns and disease. This means that PVC is a combination of many products. Some have been tested and implicated in disease, and others have not. Their risks are not yet fully known. In PVC, this is so serious that, as Judith mentioned, PVC has been removed from many consumer products. However, it is still permitted and used in water pipes, as we are hearing, and other uses such as garden hoses, and countless consumer and commercial products. Of concern to many of us who study these chemicals are the plasticizers and oxidizers, such as phthalates and BPA. And PVC and its components present us with a huge range of known and suspected health effects. So one of the things that our work has shown is that exposures to plasticizers and other dangerous chemicals that can affect hormones are particularly risky during early pregnancy. This is the time when rapid cell division is taking place and organs are forming. And they can harm the children's health and development in the womb and during childhood by interfering with the body's own hormone systems. For example, by lowering testosterone, which is one of the effects of exposure to phthalates. And so these chemicals are classified as endocrine disrupting chemicals, which is a class that is regulated and is of great concern to me and to other scientists and to regulators and to the public. Some have been shown to interfere with reproductive development and to increase the risk of testicular cancer and genital birth defects in baby boys. And a recent Danish study concludes that higher exposure in pregnancy also affects brain development, resulting in reduced IQ and other neurological problems. Higher concentrations of some plasticizers in both men and women decrease the chance of IVF success and increase the chance of miscarriage. PVC also affects pulmonary function, surprisingly, perhaps. Exposure, this is not via drinking water, but exposure to PVC, well, we don't know about whether it's drinking water, but exposure to PVC flooring in early life, including in pregnancy, has been shown to increase the risk of childhood asthma. These chemicals are known to leach or shed from PVC products. The health risks of microplastic shedding are just now being recognized. They're not well characterized. A recent study in pregnant mice found, though, that exposure to microplastics during pregnancy resulted in a decline in birth weight and reduced fertilization rates in the offspring, the next generation. So we're likely looking at effects not just on the mother, not just on the unborn child, but actually for at least 3 generations. Another chemical in PVC, or class of chemicals, are the organotins. And these are used as heat stabilizers, and they pose multiple health risks, including immunotoxicity, reduced fecundity, and developmental abnormalities, as well as neurotoxicity. As a public health scientist, I am concerned about these chemicals, And the prospect of these leaching into drinking water is extremely concerning to me, and I hope to you. So I'm going to stop there. This has been very brief. I'm happy to answer questions about the science to the extent that I can in the Q&A. And I am happy to talk and to people who want to talk to me and provide references for further reading and scientific study. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swan. Our third and final speaker is Mike Shade. Mike is the program director of Mind the Store at Toxic Free Future, a program that challenges the nation's leading retailers to transform the marketplace away from hazardous chemicals and towards safer alternatives. Mike will talk about the problems associated with the production of vinyl chloride and environmental justice communities. Mike, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much, Angela. So yeah, as was noted, I direct the Mind the Store program for Toxic Free Future. We're a national environmental health organization that's been working for 40 years to protect American families from exposure to dangerous chemicals, such as the ones we've talked about today. I'm really excited to be here. Just a couple of days ago, we published a new report looking at vinyl chloride in PVC plastic called PVC Poison Plastic. And that report investigates and uncovers the biggest polluters of vinyl chloride here in the United States. And I wanted to highlight some of our key findings from that report as they're directly relevant to this new report we're talking about today around PVC pipes. So first I want to note that the Ohio train derailment was not an isolated incident. Day in and day out, communities around the country are exposed to vinyl chloride from the manufacture of PVC for pipes, as well as other materials. Some of the train cars that burn in the derailment contained vinyl chloride, which is used to make PVC, and some also contained PVC plastic pellets. Now, the fact that these substances and materials burned is a huge concern because when vinyl chloride in PVC plastic burns, it can release dioxins, considered to be some of the most persistent and toxic chemicals on the planet. They are the truly original forever chemicals. One of the companies, Shintech, was involved in the derailment. They are the producer of the PVC plastic pellets that were in 3 of the train cars that burned in the fires. And they're a major producer of PVC that ends up in products like pipes. Interestingly, some of the Shintech PVC pellets were on their way to a PVC pipe manufacturing facility in Pennsylvania, owned by JM Eagle. Now we know this from a review of the train manifest, which can be found in the EPA's administrative order against Norfolk Southern. Now JM Eagle is one of the biggest producers of PVC pipes in the entire country, and 3 of Shintech's train cars containing PVC that burned in the derailment were on their way to this PVC pipe manufacturing facility. So there's a clear direct connection between the train derailment and the manufacture of PVC pipes. Our report revealed that Shintech, this very same company that made these PVC pellets, reported that they released over 45,000 pounds of vinyl chloride into the air at their chemical plants in Louisiana and Texas in 2021. And they're one of the biggest polluters of vinyl chloride here in the US. Another significant company involved in the derailment was Occidental Chemical, which produced the vinyl chloride in 3 of the rail cars that derailed and were burned in East Palestine. Our report found that Occidental released over 59,000 pounds of vinyl chloride into the air at their chemical plants in Texas, New Jersey, and Niagara Falls, Canada in 2021. Just last night, the New York Times broke the news that these train cars that were on their way from one of their plants in Texas, they were heading to Oxy's PVC production plant in New Jersey. We know this because this is also revealed in the same train manifest that I revealed earlier. And one of the things that's really interesting about this is that this was not the first time that train cars were on their way to this Oxy plant in New Jersey that derailed. About 10 years ago, back in 2012, There was another massive train derailment in New Jersey, in Paulsboro, New Jersey, involving vinyl chloride, which released a massive cloud of vinyl chloride into the community that sickened both residents as well as first responders. In fact, one local resident died, attributed likely due to exposure to vinyl chloride from this disaster. And that train was heading to the very same oxy plant that derailed in the Ohio train derailment. Now, if we take a bigger picture across the board, we found that vinyl companies produce more than 10 billion pounds of vinyl chloride a year, and are the source of more than 97% of vinyl chloride air pollution here in the United States. In fact, the EPA estimates that there is between 10 to 20 billion pounds of vinyl chloride produced in the United States year over year. And this is notable because the number one use of vinyl chloride is to make PVC, and the number one use of PVC is to make piping. And that's a staggering amount of a known human carcinogen, over 10 billion pounds, produced in the United States every year to make PVC pipes, building materials, and other products. And we know that these carcinogenic chemicals are shipped on railroads across the country, posing risks to communities while going across the country, as we saw in East Palestine, and also as we saw previously in Paulsboro, New Jersey. Another big concern is that these chemicals are not only being manufactured, but they're also being released into the air in communities where they're manufactured. Our investigation revealed that these vinyl chloride and PVC plants report releasing more than 400,000 pounds of this known human carcinogen into the air in a year. We also found, as Judith noted, that far too often that these plastics chemical plants are often in low-income communities and communities of color, making this a major issue of environmental justice. We found that of the US residents that live within a 3-mile radius of a vinyl chloride manufacturing facility, or a PVC resin plant, or a PVC waste disposal facility, 63% are people of color that live within a 3-mile radius. And that's compared to the national average of 41%. We also found that many of these residents are lower income, on average 37% earning below the national average. Now, one egregious example is a community down in Louisiana, Mossville, Louisiana, right outside of Lake Charles. Historically, Mossville was a historic African-American community that was founded by descendants of slaves. It was a really rural area. Sadly, today, Mossville is surrounded by some of the biggest vinyl chloride polluters in the country who make vinyl chloride that ends up in PVC pipes. This community, largely African-American, was exposed for decades to vinyl chloride and other dangerous chemicals like dioxins. Testing by the Federal Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry found that residents of Mossville had levels of dioxin in their bodies 3 times the national average. They also found that Mossville residents that had chickens in their backyards also had concentrations of dioxins in the chicken eggs. Sadly, due to the contamination in this community, especially due to a contaminated groundwater plume that was coming from one of the PVC production facilities, most of the Mossville community have since been forced to evacuate their homes and relocate out of the community due to the contamination and due to the expansion of these chemical plants. And I share this because this is just one example. Mossville is not alone. Other communities here in the US, particularly in Louisiana, have also been forced to relocate due to contamination problems from the vinyl plastics industry, such as Plaquemine, Louisiana, Rebeltown, Louisiana, as well as Morrisonville, Louisiana. And sadly, like Mossville, these were also largely communities of color. So I share these stories to highlight that the impacts of manufacturing PVC have profound impacts on low-income communities and communities of color. And I want to stress, as we think about replacing lead service lines, that we really should not be solving one problem and creating another. The government is in the middle of pouring literally billions of dollars for installing PVC pipes. And We have seen that this is clearly contributing to massive environmental injustice for communities in the United States like Mossville. And this, sadly, is a direct contrast with the Biden administration's commitment to environmental justice. So I applaud Beyond Plastics and the other co-authors on this report, and we think that this report should really be a wake-up call for the Biden administration and for local and state governments across the country. At the same time, we think that the business community has a role to play as well. Major retailers like the Home Depot and Lowe's can take action and help prevent these problems by phasing out and banning the sale of PVC piping and other PVC building products. Retailers like the Home Depot can leverage their market power and influence to drive this poison plastic off of store shelves and help bring safer products to market. And that's the good news. Safer solutions are out there, like recycled copper. With that, thank you, and I'll turn it back to Angela. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike. Just before we open it up for questions, we'd like to share with you some of the recommendations. I encourage you, I know this is being recorded, but I also encourage you to screenshot the screen. I'll just highlight a couple things here. But as our government officials move forward with replacing the lead service lines, here are some important questions to consider. What is the replacement pipe that you're considering and looking for another safe alternative to PVC? Consider the data that is available in terms of the levels of chemicals that have been found leaching from the pipes in the certification testing. Third, will the pipe that you consider include a liner? Fourth, if you are planning to use copper piping, see if recycled copper is available. And fifth, consider the breakdown of your project costs. The cost of replacement piping, regardless of the type of piping being used, tends to be one of the smaller costs of most lead service replacement projects. So at this time, we would like to open it up for questions. You can either ask your question on screen. We ask that you